Greetings, Guardians. Welcome back to Olympus Alliance. Over the past few weeks, we've analyzed several relics together. Some were good, some were decent, and some honestly didn't change enough to justify rushing your relic shards into them. We've always tried to stay objective. If something isn't worth the investment, we'll tell you. If something has value only in certain situations, we'll tell you that too. Today, we're looking at Crow. And after testing his complete relic set, I have to say something I don't say very often. These relics genuinely impressed me. Not because they simply increase his damage. Not because they inflate a few numbers. But because they fundamentally improve what Crow was already designed to do. They don't change his identity. They perfect it. Every new relic builds naturally on the previous one, creating a hero that becomes more consistent, more oppressive, and significantly more difficult for mage compositions to deal with. And that's the key. Crow was already introduced as an anti-mage specialist. His relics don't suddenly transform him into something different. They take the exact role he was created for, and push it to another level. Now, does that mean everyone should immediately spend every relic shard they own? No. And we're never going to tell you how to spend your resources. But if you're one of those players who's been asking us for months, I'm saving my relic shards. Who's actually worth investing in? Guardians? Crow deserves to be part of that conversation. And as we go through each relic today, you'll understand exactly why. Let's start with relic level 1. And honestly, this is where things begin to get really interesting. Relic level 1, Witch Hunt. At first glance, you might think this is just another passive that adds a little extra damage every few seconds. It isn't. This relic immediately fixes one of the biggest limitations of Crow's original kit. Before relics, Crow was exceptional at applying silence. But mostly to isolated targets or small groups through his active abilities. Now, every 12 seconds, Crow automatically hunts down the enemy with the highest intelligence, exactly the hero he's designed to eliminate. If that target isn't silenced, the relic applies a fresh 5-second silence. But here's the part that completely changes the battlefield. If that target is already under silence, the effect doesn't simply refresh. It spreads the silence to every nearby enemy for the remaining duration. Think about what that means. Crow is no longer just controlling one dangerous mage. He's turning one silenced target into the center of a chain reaction. One mage becomes 2. 2 become 3. And suddenly an entire backline can lose access to their abilities without Crow even casting an active skill. This is exactly what I mean when I say these relics don't simply add damage. They amplify Crow's identity. They make his control more reliable, more consistent, and far more oppressive against intelligence-based teams. And Guardians. This is only relic level 1. We're just getting started. Now let's move to relic level 10. And Guardians. This is where you start realizing these relics weren't designed to simply increase Crow's numbers. They were designed to remove his biggest limitation. Before this upgrade, Silent Judgment was already an excellent opening ability. It attacked the entire front line while applying silence to every enemy, whose main stat was intelligence. Against mage-heavy teams, that alone was already incredibly powerful. But the developers asked themselves one question. Why only intelligence heroes? And this relic answers it. From relic level 10 onward, Silent Judgment no longer targets only intelligence heroes. It now applies silence to every single enemy on the battlefield for 8 full seconds. Think about that for a moment. This isn't increasing the duration. It isn't adding a little more damage. It completely removes the restriction of the skill. Every hero, every class, every position, frontline, midline, backline, everyone is affected. And that's a massive improvement because Crow's entire kit revolves around enemies being under silence. The more enemies carrying silence, the more value every other skill begins to generate. His grenade suddenly has far more targets already affected. His passive starts spreading silence even more consistently. And his later relics become significantly stronger because they're constantly interacting with enemies who are already silenced. Everything starts working together. This is exactly what I love about this relic design. It doesn't create random power. It creates synergy. Every upgrade strengthens the previous one. Every piece connects naturally with the next. And Guardians. We're only at relic level 10. Because if you think this improvement is impressive, the next relic starts pushing Crow into a completely different category. And that's where things become truly scary. Now, let's move to relic level 20. And Guardians. This is the relic where Crow stops simply controlling the battlefield and starts punishing everyone trapped inside it. Before this upgrade, Holy Grenade already had a very clear purpose. It searched for the enemy with the highest intelligence, applied silence, and dealt area damage around the target. A fantastic ability against mages. But now, the developers take that exact mechanic and multiply its impact. Instead of only exploding around the primary target, the grenade now creates shards that strike every enemy already affected by silence, while also damaging nearby enemies around each of those targets. Think about what that actually means. Earlier, we upgraded Silent Judgment so it could silence the entire battlefield. Now, Holy Grenade takes advantage of that setup. The more enemies carrying silence, the more explosions occur. The more damage spreads across the battlefield. And that's exactly why I keep saying these relics were designed together. One relic prepares the battlefield. The next one exploits it. Everything works as one complete system. But that's not all. Every enemy hit by those grenade shards also has their silence extended by another 2 seconds. And that is absolutely massive. Because Crow doesn't simply want enemies to be silenced. He wants them to stay silenced. Longer silence means more opportunities for his passive abilities to trigger. More opportunities for his other skills to interact with those targets. And far less time for enemy mages to recover and cast their abilities. It's a chain reaction. More silence creates more explosions. More explosions extend the silence even further, which creates even more opportunities for Crow's entire kit to keep rolling. Guardians? This is no longer just crowd control. This is battlefield domination. And honestly, we're only at relic level 20. If you thought these relics were only adding a little more damage, by now, you can clearly see that's not what's happening. They're transforming Crow into a hero whose entire kit continuously feeds itself, becoming stronger with every single upgrade. And the best part, the relics still aren't finished. And finally, Guardians, we arrive at relic level 30. And I have to be honest, this is the relic that completely convinced me. If someone asked me why I believe Crow is one of the best relic investments we've seen in a long time, this would be my answer. Because this isn't simply another damage increase. It isn't another stat boost. It changes how entire battles are played. As long as at least one enemy is affected by silence, enemies cannot apply debuffs or curses. Read that again. They cannot apply debuffs or curses. That is absolutely enormous. Because now you're not only shutting down abilities, you're shutting down mechanics that entire heroes depend on to function. Let's look at some examples. Take Iris. Her terrifying inner fire damage over time is one of the reasons she dominates so many fights. Without being able to properly apply those effects, a huge part of her pressure simply disappears. Now think about Tempest. Chronostasis is one of the strongest control mechanics in the game. Again, you're interfering with the very mechanics that make him so dangerous. Then comes Folio, a hero whose entire gameplay revolves around applying effects and controlling the battlefield. Once again, Crow is disrupting exactly what that hero wants to accomplish. And it doesn't stop there. This relic doesn't target one specific hero. It attacks an entire category of mechanics. Every current hero, and every future hero, that relies on debuffs or curses immediately has to respect Crow's presence on the battlefield. That's why I genuinely believe this relic has incredible long-term value. It doesn't just counter today's meta. It has the potential to counter tomorrow's meta as well. And remember, this effect remains active as long as Crow is alive and at least one enemy is under silence. After everything we've already seen. Silence covering the whole battlefield. Silence spreading. Silence lasting longer. Keeping enemies permanently affected becomes far more realistic than it first sounds. Every previous relic was preparing for this moment. They weren't isolated upgrades. They were building toward one final objective: keeping silence active. So this relic can continuously deny one of the strongest categories of mechanics in hero wars. Guardians? I don't usually use expressions like this. But for me, this is the holy grail of Crow's relics. Not because it gives the biggest numbers, but because it completely changes the strategic value of the hero. It takes Crow from being an excellent anti-mage specialist to becoming a hero capable of disrupting some of the strongest control and debuff compositions in the entire game. And that's exactly why, at the beginning of this video, I said these relics impressed me. Not because they simply make Crow stronger, but because every single upgrade strengthens his identity. Every relic builds naturally into the next one. Nothing feels random. Nothing feels wasted. It's one of the most cohesive and well-designed relic progressions we've seen. Guardians? This was our complete look at Crow's relics. In the next videos, we'll be testing him against the current meta, exploring the best team compositions, his strongest synergies, his counters, and showing you exactly where he shines the most on the battlefield. If you've been saving your relic shards, waiting for a hero truly worth investing in, Crow has certainly earned a place in that conversation. As always, stay tuned, stay sharp, and, as always, salute and friendship.